Hello my Razor Ranches, it's your boy Zionic Blader, and in this video I will be ranking each Howlkor X Ramparian from worst to best. I'll be ranking them by their overall competitive viability in the Bakugan Pro game. But enough talk, let's get on with the list. Spoiler alert, this list is gonna be hard for me to do because honestly, I feel like all of the forms of Howlkor X Ramparian would perform poorly in a competitive brawl. Number 7. Ventus Haos Howlkor X Ramparian. Starting off with a shield and fizz core which isn't that spicy, and a stat line of 403 with a fusion cost of 2. While the cheap fusion cost sounds enticing, unfortunately its stats are at 705, meaning it's gonna reach 1200 B power on the plus 500 fusion only shield core, or 10 damage on the plus 5 fusion only green fist core, which are stats that are very common on Bakugan in base form, so having to spend 2 energy just to reach that isn't worth it. Number 6. Pyrus Darkest Howlkor X Ramparian. An amazing core lineup of double Fire Fist. Unfortunately, that's where all the good things for this Bakugan end. Its stat line of 702 doesn't really make use of its core lineup. Plus, 7 energy to fuse is very expensive, especially since its stats when fused are 1208, which for the cost isn't that good. While the damage can reach 16 on the plus 8 fusion only Fire Fist, Darkus Rairazu can reach 15 just in base form, so having to spend 7 energy just for 1 more damage in comparison is not worth it at all. Number 5. Darkest Aquos Halcor X Ramparian. This Bakugan seems to have the most effort put into all of the Howlkor X Ramparians, because as of right now, it is the only one to have an epic character card and an evolution. But first things first, 2 green fists is yuck, and a stat line of 505 isn't really that impressive, which is a shame because it's gonna cost 6 energy to fuse, so you better be lucky and try to survive. The best way to help this Bakugan before it can fuse is to use the minus 200 plus 5 Helix Core to reach 10 damage, or a plus 6 Fire Fist to reach 11 damage, which will allow it to put up a fight via a highest damage wins play. So, for 6 energy to fuse, what do you get? Not much really. The stats bump up to 1406. The 1400 B power doesn't really help it, as green fists don't really boost that much B power. And its damage, while reaching 11 when on the plus 5 fusion only green fist, isn't worth it for the fusion cost. You can core swap to boost its B power, but honestly, at that point, just use a different Bakugan. And as for its diamond evolution, like with most diamond evolutions, the cost isn't worth it. As for the epic character card, it adds the effect of making your opponent discard 2 cards when you flip this card over, which is pretty nice. However, because of what I mentioned prior, I still don't think this added effect makes this Bakugan worth using. Number 4. Darkest Aurelius Howlkor X Ramparian. A nice core lineup of Helix and Green Fist, and a stat line of 506 with a fusion cost of 4, bumping up its stats to 810. To maximize B power, you use the plus 600 minus 3 Helix core to reach 1400, which isn't really that good. It's a shame that the fusion Helixes didn't give more substantial boosts. It can reach 15 damage on the plus 5 fusion only green fist, but getting to that by having to spend 4 energy to fuse isn't worth it. Number 3. Aquasventus Halcor X Ramparian. A shield and green fist core lineup which isn't spicy, and a stat line of 602 with a fusion cost of 5, bumping its stats to 907, with the victor ability of drawing 2 cards. When on the plus 500 fusion only shield core, this Bakugan reaches 1400 B power, which for 5 energy isn't worth it. And when on the plus 5 fusion only green fist, this Bakugan reaches 12 damage, which again, for 5 energy isn't worth it. Number 2, Haos Pyrus Howlkor X Ramparian. A nice core lineup of Helix and Green Fist, and a stat line of 601 with an inherent Frost Strike, which is nice. It costs 5 energy to fuse, which bumps the stats to 903, and adds onto its effect by giving 2 Frost Strike and Double Strike. Unfortunately, the best way to maximize beat power is the 600-3 Helix core, which would make this Bakugan have 0 damage and not be able to make use of its Double Strike. The next best thing would to be use the +2 damage and 500 beat power if fused Helix core, which would balance its stats to 1405, but for 5 energy isn't worth it. Number 1, Aquos Aurelus Howlkor X Ramparian. An amazing core lineup of double Helix core and a stat line of 105. However, you don't have to worry about it for too long, because for only 3 energy, this Bakugan can fuse, which bumps the stats up to 906, which would be pretty good if Helix cores for Fusion Bakugan were better. Unfortunately, the best beat power boosting Helix core is still the normal 600-3 Helix core, which would make this Bakugan's beat power 1500, which, while over 1450, isn't worth it because of the energy used just to get it to fuse, which is a shame because this Bakugan had the best standing out of all of these Howlkor X Ramparians. It's quite ironic that this Bakugan is the first Bakugan to have more than 6 forms, but they all aren't really worth using in a competitive brawl. But anyways, this has been Zeonic Blader with my worst to best video. What do you think? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comment section below, and be sure to let me know your favorite Howlkor X Ramparian from Bakugan Armored Alliance. And if you like this video, hit the like button, or don't. I'm not the boss of you, but be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get updated whenever I upload. Until next time, see ya!